Something's stirring in the deep, and it smells like suntan lotion, money, and murder. Hey ghoulies, and welcome back to The Final Queer. My name is Juan Carlos, and today we are reviewing Jaws by Peter Benchley. And yes, I'm giving you full deep sea makeup, blood, surf, and final queer fantasy. This book gave us the shark that launched 1,000 nightmares. But the real monsters, they walk on land, wear suits, and care more about tourism than lives. Let's get into it. Published in 1974, Jaws was Peter Benchley's first novel, inspired by real shark attacks off the Jersey Shore in 1916, and it became a big, huge cultural phenomenon. And yes, it's the book that gave Spielberg his very first blockbuster. And fun fact, it actually was the reason why we have summer releases nowadays, because before then movies were not released in the summer, and Jaws, because of its major drawbacks, because the shark, fun fact, hardly ever worked, and so they had a lot of delays in production, and it was released in summer instead. And what they realized is it actually did really, really well with audiences all across the United States. And so that's when they decided that, like, hey, the summer is the perfect time to actually release movies. So that was actually the very first summer blockbuster. So that's where we actually get the term. But Benchley wasn't just writing about a shark. He was writing about fear. He was writing about class, corruption, and nature's revenge. And fun fact, he eventually regretted vilifying sharks so much, which is fair, because sharks are just animals that are living in their own environment, and we enter their homes. But the damage was done already. Like, girl, you done already had your whatever RuPaul says. And so, so that, the damage of vilifying sharks happened. And that was that. So the story takes place in Amity Island, which is a beach town that thrives on summer tourism, which is why a lot of the times, like throughout the book, they're like, no, we can't close the beach because that's how we survive. And that, again, I don't know why I go into a southern accent sometimes. Please pardon me. And so when a swimmer is found, or I should actually say pieces of her are found, panic starts to brew in this little quiet town of Amity, which in the movie, Amity means friendship. Fun fact. And so it's a little quiet town, and then they're like, oh snap, we have a problem. And so the town leaders at this time, when they realize this, they don't want to close the beaches again because they're more concerned about the tourism and the money that the tourism brings than, protecting people's lives. And so we meet Chief Brody, who's scared of the water. And then there's Hooper, who is a wealthy marine biologist with a thing for Brody's wife, which is something different from the film. In the film, Hooper and Brody's wife don't actually have like an affair, unlike the book. I don't know why there's an affair in the book. Character development, I guess. And then finally, we have Quint, who is the shark hunter with a death wish and a cigar permanently glued to his face. And honestly, I feel in the book, he's a little queer-coded. Like, there are some moments where he's, like, they're talking about having a wife and having, a family. And so they ask him, like, oh, what about you, Quint? Do you have a wife? And he's like, no, I never really had time for a wife. I was just me and the sea. And I was like, gay? um, and so this book was written in the 70s, so of course back then it wasn't really as okay to have characters that were like really completely out. But it was the 70s, it was a different time. Um, but I definitely feel that he's queer coded. And so these men represent fear, science, and revenge, and together they face the shark, and they kind of have to like rely on each other. And the thing is that their personalities clash as well. And the book gives them way more depth and darkness than the film. Like I said, there's like the relationship between Brody and his wife is very, very different than what it is in the film. Like in the book, it's very much like a troubled marriage, and they're kind of like on the brink of, I feel they're like on the brink of divorce in the book. Um, and then you have Hooper, who is like, again, this like, he is described as this like very attractive, wealthy man from like elite society. And that's what like draws Brody's wife towards wanting to be with Hooper, because she reminds him, or he reminds her of her previous life being a part of that elite class. So that's interesting. And then you have Quint, who's just kind of there. Um, but yes, there's a lot of things different from the book and the movie that I think I'm glad Spielberg decided not to keep some of those things in the movie, because I feel like it would have detracted from that. So yeah. So there's a little bit of the plot and some of the characters. So let's talk about themes, because Jaws is not just a beach story or a beach horror story. It's a story about control and how fragile that illusion is. Man versus nature is the surface of it all, but underneath, it's really man versus fear. It's fear of the unknown. It's fear of loss, fear of being exposed. And Benchley shows us what happens when money outweighs morality. And because the mayor refuses to close the beaches, because again, he's like, hey, like, this is how we make money. It doesn't matter that someone died. We're just going to keep it hush hush, because the town depends on the summer money that comes in. Does that sound familiar? And so there's also a lot of other things that are within that, that Benchley kind of touches upon, because it kind of goes into like this interesting subplot about like the mafia, which I found interesting. I was like, oh, interesting. That's a interesting way to kind of include that into this little like story. Um, so yeah, overall, it's again this understanding that we don't have control over everything. Classism is also very loud in this story. Hooper comes from wealth and science, and Quint comes from experience and survival. And they completely despise each other. They bicker like an old married couple. Um, but ultimately they do need each other, because again, um, you know, Hooper has the knowledge of marine life, and then you have Quint, who has the experience of, fishing and catching sharks. And Brody, he's just trying not to drown in everyone else's ego, and he's just kind of going along for the ride and just trying to make sure that what they do helps the people of Amity. And then we have the shark. The shark is a force of nature that doesn't care about your title, your fears, your past, your anything. It is completely primal. It's indifferent to what's happening. It's indifferent to the needs of your community. Like the shark doesn't care that you depend on vacationers and summer money to uphold your town. It's a mirror to everything these men tried to suppress. Um, and so, what makes this book horror is not the teeth, but the truth. And the sea doesn't forgive, it devours. Okay, babes. So you're stuck on Amity Island. The beach is open. The shark is circling. The mayor is gaslighting you. Here's how to survive Jaws. Tip number 1, don't night swim. If you can't see the bottom of the ocean, it's not safe. And this is not the time to skinny dip, y'all. I know you really want to, but oh no, that cute boy is not worth it, girl. Leave the moonlight fantasy to Lana Del Rey. Tip number 2, never trust a mayor in a seersucker suit. If they say, there's no danger, grab your towel and run, because there is danger, girl. Girl, you're in danger, as Whoopi Goldberg said. So you better run. You better run. Tip number 3, don't try to outswim the shark. You won't win. Use your brain. Hide, climb, float, still, or my fave, make someone else the bait. um, yeah, not all sharks are friendly. I did find out that lemon sharks, you can actually just flip them over, and that causes their whatever in their brain to go weird, so it causes immobility. But that's lemon sharks. If you're up against a great white, yeah, no, you're done. And if you hear cello strings, girl, that's your cue. That's not a soundtrack. It's a warning. GTFO or like RIP, Gucci, Bassis. So, is Jaws a perfect book? No. But it is iconic. And it's part horror, part thriller, part 70s melodrama, and 100% responsible for making people fear the ocean for generations. The pacing drags in the middle. The affair subplot is a little messy, and the ending way darker than the movie. But Benchley gave us something primal and unforgettable. So for that, I give Jaws a solid 4 claws out of 5 for fans of classic horror, ecological dread, and stories where nature bites back. This is essential reading. And there it is, my Shark Attack Eleganza. She's blue, she's bleeding, she's bold, and she absolutely would have survived. If you love this deep dive into Jaws and my aquatic killer queen transformation, please make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and follow me on Instagram at The Final Queer for more horror, makeup, and survival strategies. And go ahead and tell me in the comments, would you survive a shark attack? Or would you be that one friend that said, it's probably just seaweed, and then vanished? Stay tuned next month as we travel off the coast of Costa Rica for an adventure in the long grass. If you know, you know, and you won't want to miss it. Stay spooky.